I think there's a little bit of both. I think it's an interesting, almost a trick question. There's no doubt that this is a city of innovators. We have a deep relationship with Stanford University, and it continues to turn out a very entrepreneurial student population. And when they graduate, they often stay in the community, and they want to either join organizations or start their own. And this is ongoing, thankfully for us. It continues to be a consistent, sustainable way in which the city of Palo Alto maintains its position in the world and its economic advantages. With regard to an innovation city, in many ways we're a traditional city, a traditional community. We're a small town, and as I participate and observe how our city council works and decisions are made, we very much want to keep the quality of life that we have. Whilst there is a lot of pressure, as you can imagine, to build more buildings or to bring in high-speed rail, to do more things that would increase, again, economics or convenience. So there's a kind of a balance. But we do have a very successful utilities, the way in which we provision electricity and water and gas very successfully, very efficiently. We get to see some of the technology that the community creates used in our community. It's not unusual to see almost everybody texting or using a smartphone on the streets. And when you go to the cafes, people using their laptop computers and their iPads. In some ways, it's a community, it's a brain trust of smart and innovative people living in a conservative, traditional community. Well, this year was a lot about building the foundation for our future. We have a lot of modernization to do. Today, we still have a good deal of our infrastructure in our own on-premise data center. So we're taking a good look at that. We've got an inventory of our systems and our applications, all in preparation for looking at whether we should be moving that out into an off-premise or even a cloud provider. So we're doing a lot of the homework this year. We were very successful in moving forward with open government in the city of Palo Alto this year by having an open data platform and most recently an open budget where we were able to make 5 years of financial information really easily accessible to our community for analysis. So America is not unique. We see very successful open data initiatives in the United Kingdom and in Australia and in other countries. Some countries, perhaps Italy, I'm not aware of what's happening there, may be more reluctant or less forward-thinking yet in where you want to be. There's no doubt that when President Barack Obama was elected in 2008, his first term, one of the messages he ran on was to create greater transparency between the citizenry and the federal government. And one of the ways in which there was a consensus around how to achieve that was to make the vast amount of data sets that the federal government stores easily consumable by people and by machines. And Vivek Kundra, the first federal CIO, he really had a great vision for this upon President Obama's direction to make it real and have a lot of momentum. That did create, for sure, first of all, it created a very large-scale example of the advantages of it and how it might manifest in a technical solution, and it was inspirational. So having it come right from the top certainly, I believe, impacted the other cities that we saw and states beginning to adopt open data. There are different motivations. For us, open data is definitely about transparency and about being as open as we can with our community. So there's a great, that openness can create trust and trust, and then you can get things done. But we also see the benefits of making large data sets available to people who can build interesting applications. So I think that each community is motivated in their own way, whether it's New York City or Chicago or Seattle or Honolulu over in Hawaii, where they've done great things. They'll select the reasons. As I kind of reflect on it, open data is a win-win. There's very, very little downside to it. Within open data, of course, an important component is the protection of privacy and protection of private information. But the vast majority of data that government stores is not private and has more utility when it's more available. So I think we've had quite a lot of progress in the United States, but I don't think it's unique to us. And perhaps in Italy, the conversation is not yet at a national level and not necessarily perhaps on the radar as a near priority for your country. One of the things we'll do is, because we put in a new network in Palo Alto, a new wiring, new switches, it's a high-speed network, and we have now a voice over IP communication system. We're able to layer that with more and more comprehensive unified communications set of solutions. We'll do small chunks gradually, and it'll probably stretch more than a year. But something that we're going to explore for sure will be instant messaging between employees, and all the advantages that come with voice over IP. Just making it easier for people to have more points of contact, whether they use their own smartphone to access the phone system of the city, the ability for voicemail to be converted into an email message. So there'll be things we'll do around that. We also need to play catch up on our mobile solutions. We need to get up to a basic standard of having a reporting app for the community. So if people see a problem with infrastructure, they can take a picture, it'll come into City Hall, and then we can have our public works or the relevant department fix that problem. We just have to get up to speed. We just have to meet that level. But then we got to build beyond that to really have a Palo Alto application that allows our community to engage with government through a mobile device. We see that a lot in other communities, and particularly in big cities, and we're going to start to deliver that next year. So I'll try to summarize. We are at a very important moment. There are some major turns ahead. One of the ones which we shouldn't lose sight of is what technology that an organization owns and has captive, and what technology it subscribes to or rents as it needs it. And so we see that manifesting in software as a service, for example. If more and more of your solutions are just subscription-based or hosted elsewhere, the very nature of an IT organization changes, because you no longer have to worry about hardware and about patching systems, about keeping software current. It's all done by another provider. So that changes the game. I think we're right now getting into the heart of a data explosion, right? Just the nature of our world, we're capturing more and more and more data. And it's useless if you store it and you don't do anything with it. But now we, for the first time, have very sophisticated analytics that can start to harvest meaning in data, and with that meaning you can make more informed decisions and provide better services and different types of products, and really, frankly, start to predict more of the behavior of the consumer and different stakeholders in different scenarios. I think on the kind of bigger picture, I think we'll see a greater role for robotics in our world, both at the miniaturization level, but also at large-scale robotics. A lot of robots taking on repetitive human tasks and thus changing the very nature of what humans do, and in turn affecting how we spend our time. Do we work less? Do we work differently? Where do we work from? I definitely see self-driving cars as part of our future, and whilst that kind of feels in the short term like a novelty, if society broadly adopts self-driving cars, the very nature of transportation changes. Right? Highways full of cars driving by themselves, what does that mean in terms of efficiency and congestion? What if you have an hour in your car now where you can sit back and really work or read a book or shave? That there will be a significant change, I think, ahead of us in terms of transportation. I think we have a lot of problems to solve. I think climate change is being under addressed now, and technology has to play a major role in that, in what we see in our world. I think it won't be too long before we'll see a lot more activity in the space program, particularly as the private sector becomes very motivated and engaged in space exploration. And so whilst we kind of relied on government agencies to kind of move science and discovery forward, I think you'll see more of it in the private sector. And probably you'll see it, because the drivers are different, more activity more quickly. And it might actually surprise us how quickly we get to the moon and we build a base, and eventually we go to Mars and we build a base. And whilst that's kind of more visionary, and one could think, well, that doesn't affect me as an individual or my business, the reality is all of that innovation and the things it takes to put bases on the moon and send out spaceships to get raw materials will impact. That innovation will trickle down into all sectors of our economy. Miniaturization, better energy utilization. So I'm kind of an optimist about the future. I think if I kind of step back and look at things like mobility, right? Smartphones. I look at social collaboration, things like social media. Look at big data. I think they're loosely connected, but if you start to bring those together, and whoever figures this out, the people that figure this out are going to make a lot of money. But when you bring together big data, social, mobility, very fast processors, and miniaturization, I think we're going to see innovation that you and I can't even imagine right now.